So BC, or ball control drill. This is for the 2-meter man to work on ball control and movement of the shoulders, as well as the underwater split egg beater. In this drill, you'll notice the 2-meter man. He's going from on top position with the ball, dragging his hand to underneath the ball and moving it to the next position. It's not his arm is leading, it's his shoulder that is leading, because the ball must stay within the shoulder range. If the ball is left outside the shoulder range, we are now giving the defense an opportunity to steal the ball or jump around and steal the ball. You can notice a split egg beater. One leg is directly underneath to keep the player from being pushed under. The opposite leg is out at a 45-degree angle to maintain his position where he is in the cage or field of play. This is extremely important to have your split egg beater. If both your legs are in the vertical or straight down, a player can push you, the defensive player can push you forward and now you're losing position. If both your legs are up in a horizontal position, now the player can act, the defensive player can push you down underneath the water. From above, you'll notice the shoulder positioning and the ball's staying with inside the shoulders on every turn. It slightly might move outside, but quickly reestablish the ball is in the center or just inside the center of the shoulders. This is a very important skill to make sure that you're accomplishing in the game's drill. This is one of the basic and first drills that you should teach your 2-meter man, or that you should know as a 2-meter man. Without ball control, a 2-meter man is nothing. The DYO drill, or defend your opponent drill. This is the next step to protecting the ball. As you notice, the defender will jump to one shoulder, the other shoulder. It is important that the offensive player establish control of the defender before going to the ball. This is a common mistake. Most offensive players make their first move to the ball without defending the defender from the ball. The other important key that you might notice underwater is the breaststroke kick, which helps him establish that controlling ball side, or controlling the ball. As the defender jumps to one side, he uses a big breaststroke kick to control that side, and then goes to the ball to keep the ball inside of his shoulders. The other thing you'll notice is that his one arm, if a defender jumps to his right, his left shoulder protects that defender, and his right hand goes to the ball. It's not his left hand, it's the right hand. It's the opposite arm or shoulder protecting the defender. One thing you'll always hear coaches say is keep your head above the water. Notice this offensive player does a great job of keeping the visual of the game, the crashers, as well as where the goalie is in all of his movements. In this face turn seal drill, this is when the ball is on the opposite triangle, maybe on the 1-2 side, and the 2-meter man is facing the 4-5 side, the front court. And he's face turn and seal. We teach our players to face, turn, and seal because you can maintain and control your position better when you're face to face with your defender. But once that ball is establishing its position into the strong side triangle where the 2-meter man is set, where you are set, is when you need to turn and face the ball. Open up to the ball. If you have not turned as the ball is coming in, the referee will now call an offensive foul. You have to maintain or control that position with your back, opening up to the ball. In the underwater camera, you'll notice the offensive player is facing him. As soon as the ball comes in his triangle, he goes underneath with his right or left arm to the opposite armpit to reestablish or to establish position. He's in a 45-degree angle right now, horizontal, but goes immediately to a split egg beater to maintain that control. Now this ball must be in that triangle prior to him making this move. It's considered a chess game. You're making the opponent think one thing and you're doing the opposite. Getting him to get out of balance or take that bait. In the stroke spin, this is when the 2-meter defender is fronting you and the offensive player is trying to establish a position where the ball is already established in the triangle. If you notice in this, he fakes a stroke or takes a stroke to one side of the pool and spins out of it, establishing position to the other triangle. You'll notice here when the guy does spin inside, his shoulders immediately go into the protected state, his head is buried into his chest, his head is above water, and he creates separation from his defender with his split egg beater. The common mistake here for the 2-meter man is to take a slow stroke. Notice the work rate here. The offensive player is creating a lot of white water. He's really trying to sell that he's trying to jump to the first move position, but then reestablishes the second position with his work rate. His arms are working hard, his legs are working hard, and this is what establishes his control. The difference between stroke and spin and stroke and slip is the separation you have from your defender. If you have a lot of separation from you and your defender, you don't need to spin to control the ball side. You can just slip your inside shoulder underneath his outside armpit. If you notice under the camera, he'll take his right arm, slip it underneath his defender's right arm, and then he has control or maintains control of that ball side. Again, notice the offensive player's work rate. This is what allows him to establish that ball side slip. A two-stroke ball side move right here really allows that 2-meter man to gain that sidebound position. He's showing the strokes that way that he doesn't call for an offensive foul. Here he gains the position, goes into the squirm with a lot of white water, maintains that position and gets his 5-meter call. This is the LSS drill, leg, spin, seal. Now it's very similar to the other drill that we had when we were legging or your face turn seal, but here you'll notice that the 2-meter man or 2-meter defender is being fronted, and he's trying to establish more room in front of the cage for himself. So he's going to leg his opponent outside the 4 and 5-meter area, which allows the 4, 5, or 1 and 2 player to pass an inside pass for him to establish that inside water position. As he gets inside water, he turns his body at an angle to not allow the defensive player to touch or reach the ball. This is a very important technique in this drill. The screw is a great drill for the offensive player to see or to recognize his ability to be able to control or push back his defender. If you notice, his position is higher out of the water. You can see his chest line. His arms are working in a sculling manner, which allows his body to be a wider frame. If you notice there's no 2-meter defender, in this next clip we'll show a 2-meter defender on there. It will really illustrate to you how he can maintain his position with this wide frame of a squirm drill. The overhead view will show how far his elbows are really going back. Now, in no way are you allowed to bring your elbows back way past your body to establish contact with your defender. That's an offensive. If you notice here, his shoulders or his elbows don't go past his body frame. He's allowed to have that water. Also notice the work rate from the arms and the legs and all the white water around him. The bigger, the wider that you present yourself, the easier it will be to establish or maintain that ball side control.